Hey, it's Robin with Radiance MFR, and I just wanted to talk to you today a little bit about the stress response in the body, the fight, flight, or freeze response, and what happens when we have trauma in the body. And I'm going to relate this to my own recent experience because I'm well aware of these things, but when you put them into reality and you're actually experiencing and feeling it, it's very fresh. And so what happened was I was in an accident most recently over the holiday weekend, and I was T-boned and spun around. And then my body, I bear witness as the body worker, as the John Barnes myofascial release therapist, but then also as the human being who's experiencing the trauma. Um, in the body going into shock, this trauma response after a sudden impact and physical trauma to the body, that my whole body began to shake. And that is part of the trauma response. It's like almost like a fight, flight, or freeze, and then a thaw, but it's a reaction within the body. And I was fortunate enough after the accident sustained some really, considering the impact, minor injuries, having more to do with glass. And I was fortunate to be treated 2 days after the accident. And my body was allowed to release that trauma, and how significant and important this is to people when they do have some kind of trauma, and whether that trauma is physical or emotional, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you are allowing your body to have an avenue to release that trauma. And so I got treated 2 days after the accident, and then I got treated a week or so later, and it was so beneficial to the entire experience. And like I said, instead of having this trauma pent up in my body every time I'm behind the wheel, or every time there's a similar circumstance or there's any kind of impact to my body and I go into a trauma response, to be able to release that trauma at the physical level, at the level of the fascia, is a way to dissipate all of that energy that's happening in the body. And that can come in the form of pain, restrictions with range of motion, or just the trauma from the impact that you might not want to get behind the wheel again, or get yourself into a situation where you might experience a similar trauma. And I was fortunate also to be in a position where I needed to drive right away. And this was so beneficial because from the trauma informed perspective, I understand that it's like falling off a horse or a bike and getting back on. I understand that had I not done that right away, there would be an avoidance. There would be a separation from that thing that caused danger and harm to my physical being, and I would not want to drive. So I'm fortunate that I was in a position where I did kind of need to drive, and then every time, so there was the initial accident and the initial trauma, that shaking, that adrenaline rush in your body. And then there are the after effects, the reverberations. And then there's the post-traumatic stress that kicks in when you're going by the same road or going by a similar intersection where you've been hit or where an accident has happened. And then you notice the elevated heart rate, the gripping of the wheel, a change in your breathing, all these kind of things. And now I'm recognizing them as a human being who's experiencing them, but then also as a therapist who is like the watcher, observing what is going on inside my body. So I just wanted to share that with you, how myofascial release is so integral to the healing process, and to really releasing that stored up, pent up energy from your body. It's so key. And to be able to resume normal activities as soon as possible with support is also really helpful. So I hope you've gained a little bit better understanding of the trauma response in the body, what that might look like or feel like. Sometimes it's anxiousness in the body, and it can be days or weeks or months after the impact. And to let you know that myofascial release is a safe and effective way to treat both the physical injuries from the point of impact and also the emotional impact, the trauma, and really to adjust that part of your nervous system that moves you out of sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze and into parasympathetic rest and digest. And that's where the healing happens. So if you know anybody who's experienced any kind of trauma, then the biggest help you can do is refer them to a myofascial release therapist as soon as possible after the accident or the incident. Get them seen and treated, and it will right away begin to release that fear and that trauma response inside the body. You'll be physically, mentally, and emotionally better off for it. Hope you have a great day.